All right. I don't know why I always start these things with all right. I do the old person squint. Back in front of our school, and we're going to talk about the integration here. And I don't want to go too much into it. Um, Phase one had been Lower County. It had gone fairly well in 1955. So in 1956, they've decided to do the Upper County. So what had happened was you had Brown v. Board of Education had come down, which basically said that separate was inherently unequal. And there are some discussions as to why Montgomery County moved so quickly to integrate. Some of that ranges from it was the right thing to do and people in charge were doing it, including Superintendent Norris, to the fact that some individuals from Montgomery County had actually petitioned the Supreme Court and said that here in Montgomery County we could do separate and equal, and that sort of had caught the ire of officials. I'm not sure. And the documentation is pretty thin. So in 1955, the school board rolls out integration, and there's opponents to integration on both sides, right? If you think about it, you're an African American parent. How do you feel about sending your kid into a hostile environment? You're an African American teacher. You had to fear for your jobs. And then, a lot of African American teachers, maybe they went into teaching as a way to sort of help the people of their own race, and now they're being told, hey, you're going to have to teach white children, and which is just something they didn't bargain for. Now, that's not to say all African American teachers opposed integration. The main reason for opposing integration was the fear that they were going to lose their jobs. Now, in Montgomery County, people didn't lose their jobs. Now, some African American school leaders, principals may have been demoted to assistant principals and that kind of thing. So opposition is coming from really both sides. Here at Poolesville, the opposition is the opposition that we think of, which is the anti-segregationist, if you will, for lack of a better term, the white supremacist. So the decision was to go ahead and integrate Poolesville High School. It's the first school in the Upper County to be integrated. And the date was September 4th, 1956. So that's where we'll start here. Now, the building that you're looking at would not have looked like this in 1956. Now, as we talked about before, when we talked about the earlier video on the history of the school and the school building, some of these of what's our own building was clearly here. And in 1956, they had actually built what's now the cafeteria and the media center and a number of classrooms. But if you look at the 56 pictures of the front of the school, it looks different because the front has completely changed. This building doesn't have a lot of historic integrity. Now, if you go down here near the Baptist church, so this is the bus circle. The bus circle was roughly in the same place on September 4th of 56. And so what happens when the teachers show up, the teachers' parking lot is over on the side, which is still a teacher's parking lot, and in the back of the school. And when teachers showed up for the first day of school, they were met with cars parked in what would have been fields out behind the church here. This was a smaller road, and people would have stood up with the signs and actually stood out here, and they stood further back in the circle. The police tried to move them from this area further back down the road there. And so when you see a lot of the actual pictures of the event, most of them are taken back from where those houses are now on the back right. So this is where that took place. There were police down on this road here. There were county police back up at the school building. And as I said, there were cars because there were people, clearly there were local people from Poolesville who were involved in the counter and the protest to try to stop integration. But there were cars from Virginia as far away as North Carolina that people had come from out of state and had decided to try and make this the battleground to try and stop integration. And so that was definitely a thing. So they're coming not only from all over the state, but from the entire region. And that would have been what was here. I'm going to make my way towards the back of the school here and talk about the actual initial entry. But we have some conflicting information. But we know most of the African American students, if not all of them, are actually on the same bus. And someone here made the decision to send that bus not through the circle where we were just at, but to actually take it to the back of the school. I don't know who made that call. I don't know if it was the principal or an administrator here. I don't know if it was somebody with the police, or if the decision was made by somebody in transportation. But instead of coming down in West Willard in front of the school, they brought the bus through the back, through Elgin. So they would have gone straight past where the gas station is now. I believe it was a gas station then, actually. And they would have come straight down Elgin Avenue and back where the back teacher lot is at to come into the building. So the bus would have come straight down here, taking that left on Elgin and taking the right and driven through here. Now, the obvious advantage is the crowd, the protesters, all their signage is on the other side of the building. You can't see them or the bus. Now, I know that word got out fairly quickly that the bus had pulled in the back, and we know that. In fact, there's a photograph of a rather overweight, middle-aged radio reporter with a huge microphone on the chest, running, probably more than he had run in years, trying to get through this side lot to get back and see if he could see the bus coming in. So almost immediately, word had come out that the students had made it back here. Now, I would assume that the bus had pulled up in here. Now, you can see the big windows on top. My understanding when this was built in '56, that where there are doors now, there were actually large, like fire escape windows, and at the fire they look a little bit like and operated like glass screen doors. And I figured that they would have brought them further back. So my guess is it was one of these two, but it would have been through this one that they would have brought these kids in here, and they would have gone through this door. They would have integrated Poolesville. Now, there is, as I said, some conflicting information. A police officer told one of the people employed here that he had to tell demonstrators to move. So was it possible that there were demonstrators back here, or did that incident take place in the afternoon when the kids left, when some of the protesters returned? I'm not sure, but we do have that report. Now, the plan is, of course, to rip this old building down, turn this into a parking lot, and build the new building over on the other side. That would be cool if we did something to sort of preserve, I don't know, maybe just this doorway and a tiny little park in the middle of the parking lot, with a plaque or something to describe what happened here in '56. because it's pretty important.